Alright, so I had a really cool idea for a non-devotion Enslave 5 deck for 10.9. Now, I have a few games for you guys today, but I haven't been able to really play a lot over the last day because the game is not letting me connect to matches. So every second game or so, it's basically loading. I hear the music going on forever, and then the game just closes and it says I lost because it can't connect to client. Now, I'm sure this has happened to other people. I see in the Gwent partner Discord there's been some talk about it, so hopefully they're going to be fixing it soon. But for today, it's only going to be 3 games, and that's why. But I want to get into the deck regardless because I think this has strong potential in the season. Now, it has Sunset Wanderers, and it actually was inspired by Ardal and the new Magnetovision. So with Magnetovision, now it has been changed. Play a tactic from hand, then draw a card, right? When we draw a card in our hand, it's going to be pushing Sunset back to the left, which gives Sunset ultimately an extra turn to boost in hand. So that really helps us set up the Sunset. Ardal as well has the extra condition here. If neither player's pass, your opponent's hand's not full, move an undoomed enemy unit with the power of up to 11 in our deck, and then draw a card. So it's yet another draw here. So you see where I'm going with this, right? And then we have Yennefer's Invocation as well, so we can make sure we're top decking one of the opponent's best cards, or we can make sure we're top decking our best cards when we take the Caveat before we take the Sunset Summon, before we take the Council, before we take the Ardal, before we take the Yen. You see what I'm trying to say here? So we have really good setup options for later on, and it just makes sense to have something like Sunset and something like Magni to kind of help the deck funnel and play most of the cards in it. So it actually rolls out very smooth without having things like the Blightmakers and other thinning combos you guys might be getting tired of using. Now, another cool idea with the deck that I had was actually adding a Dwim. So with Dwim here, we have 2 artifacts, right? So we have the War Council and we have the Mushy Truffle, and both of which are locations, so we can reset in order of an allied location. And in both cases, the Dwim's playing for, 10 points? 6 off the Truffle and 6 off the Council on a soldier. So, that's a really good value play, and I think it's quite reasonable, and I think it's a little bit safer than putting 2 Nausicaas, because this is a very conditional card. If your opponent has 1 around this game spawn and play a battle prep, you're only really going to want to play 1 of those. If you do get a chance to play 2, you can always just take it off of the Ramon. And I just feel like the soldier package, a small one at least, is kind of nice to fit into a deck like this. The idea of the deck is to have a bunch of tactics in the deck. So we have Order Seize an enemy unit with 3 power or less. This value is raised by 1 for every 4 tactic cards in your starting deck. This ability adds 15 provisions to your deck provision limit. So we actually have 9 tactics in the deck, including the War Council now has a tactic tag, even though it's a location, which is pretty sweet, right? They didn't change that about it, which I like quite a bit. Now, with that being said, I have 9 for one reason specifically. Stefan Skellen, spawn and play an ace up the sleeve for each 3 tactics in your starting deck. So we're getting the 6 damage off of this here to help with removal. We're also getting the tactic counter for the Hefty Helga and for the Fire Scorpions. So it still plays for quite a lot of points, even though we're not getting the full 4 with Enslave 6. The deck just feels like it's not only setting up for this card, it's setting up for all the other plays that I mentioned in the deck, right? So really sweet stuff with that there. And of course, we just need 8 cards to set up the Enslave 5. And Enslave 5 feels pretty good, right? If there's something above 5 power, we can easily chip it down with something like the Hefty Helga, or we can chip it down with something like the Fire Scorpion. So that's just kind of an idea here. I know someone is probably going to ask in the comments, so hopefully you've made it this far in the video, in the description. And I want to touch on why I didn't include the Combat Engineer. I just feel like it's one of those things where I could potentially roll off Diplo. I'm expecting to have a lot of mirror matches, but for what it's worth, we do need these to stick, and these to stick, and with a lot of mirror matches going around, I didn't think that they were going to stick as much. So it made me feel like these cards were kind of useless or adding value to removal for the opponents. If someone sees you play this, they're definitely going to be trying to get rid of the Hefty Helga and the Fire Scorpion, so it felt like a bit of a liability here, and that's why I didn't do it. I opted to go for the Illusionist combo instead because of the potential that it has in a mirror match, in engine heavy decks. Like, there's so many good things, right? So that's kind of why I did what I did with that there. Some considerations as well would be a lock. I was thinking about putting like a one-off Cavalry in here, which is something you could definitely do. But I just felt like I liked this choice a bit more, and I liked the thinning a bit more after playtesting it a little bit. But I'll show you what I mean by Cavalry, right? This one. Another option was to put a Pellar, and I'm still not against that, right? Something you actually could do is take out a one-off Illusionist if you want, and put a Pellar. Okay, now Pellar for the Purify, for obvious reasons. We have a few engines that we don't want to get locked, but most of the deck is deploy. Okay, so engines would be the Fire Scorpions and the Helga, right? Maybe whatever else we take off the Illusionists. I don't think it's enough to say we need to have a Pellar. I still have a way of getting around a Defender, and then, you know, we can literally seize a Defender, do all types of crazy stuff. So I didn't think we had to have Pellar in order to win with this deck, but that's pretty much what I have here. So let me know what you guys think of this concept. I had a ton of fun playing it, and today I have 3 games with commentary for reference, so you can see for yourself. I wish I was able to get more, but I still want to be able to upload a video today, and hopefully by tomorrow or by later today when I start getting the video ready for the next day, it works the way it's intended to work. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. And if you enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Next goal is 12K, and we're pushing it. We're close, guys. So let's make it happen. But for now, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, so for the first game here, we got Nilfgaard Imprisonment. And the problem is, I'm expecting a lot of locks here, so the Fire Scorpions don't get a lot of value, but they lose even more value if I can't even try to play them, you know what I mean? If I can't put them down and try to play tactics around them, because they're really adding points to the bronze tactics that we have. So I'm opting to look at maybe just getting rid of one of them at this point, and keeping the other one, because we still have to get out those 2 leader charges, right? And so when you see things like that drop first turn, they're stacking melee row, this seems pretty common of the mid-range Renfrey deck, where they basically play a bunch of stuff, high base power front row, and then play Triss on the back row and get a big boost, right? With Renfrey, of course. It's too bad they have a Cavalry. I was really hoping for the leader. Them being able to hold on to that basically means all of our engines now aren't going to work. You see, with the Magni being able to take that here, you can see Joust, why not? Just play something inexpensive, doesn't have to be too bad. We get the 2 points of damage plus the 3 when it's exposed on our side of the playing field as a boost. So that was actually a really good value Joust, and you can see how the Magni basically draws the card, pushing back the Sunset. So it's exactly what we're looking for. And I do my best to play to the left of Sunset, so we're not making it draw faster. I like the fact that Magni allows us to fix it, right? So we can essentially do what we have to do anyways, and just push back, and there, you see what I mean? It's not all bad. So from this point, it's tough to find the tempo. Obviously, we had to play to 7 because why else, you know, why wouldn't you, right? I'm trying to think of a way to just dump cards at this point so that we can win by getting to 4 cards that we can drive past round 2 and go into a round 3. It's not all bad because that would involve us saving Sunset Wanderers for round 3 as a big tempo swing, and also getting value from the Nausicaa because we would have lost round 2 giving it to our opponent for free. So I'm looking at, we need 13 points in order to take the rounds. Obviously, we get a pretty low roll here, but the best option is going to be the Mage Infiltrator. We just bank it for the full 6 points there, net 5 because we give them the point, and then we just have 2 cards to make it before the sunset comes out. So, just kind of looking at the best options here. There was an argument to maybe just take the Assassination on the Lamp Gen, but it doesn't really matter. We still get up by 1 here. We go into save the Sunset Wanderers and go into round 2. Gives us tons of time to draw what we're looking for, but we don't have Cavalry here, which is something that you probably want to play in round 1, and I'm surprised we didn't get him because he must have been at the bottom of the deck if we have 9 tactics in the deck and not drawing him right away. So I'm looking at the fact that they didn't commit a whole lot here, right? Now, you can still keep Calviet in a situation like this because he still plays for 8 points. And for what it's worth, that's still 8 points, right? Obviously, you can't bleed in given that they're up 3 cards. Sunset's already at 9, you could see. I like to see something like Blightmaker come on a pass because, you know, they're playing good tempo plays on a pass round, right? Like, these are things they can open up with, play for 11 points and, you know, give us some damage. If they play again here, then you're getting the extra point on the sunset as well. So they do go and play. And, you know, looking at the deck here, obviously 5 cards that we need to draw. Sunset's going to help with one of those. You love to see it. So we get the sunset, but we also do get the council, right? And then for, yeah, if we take the Calvite before, then we can get basically all of our golds, right? So Sunset's going to be pulling Ardle, and then we have the council that's going to be playing the Mushy Truffle. Or we can even just take something of theirs and yen top deck it, right? Tons of different options. Because we lost round 2, I have a Nausicaa in hand, which is really nice with the Ramon. We could afford to take a slow turn here, just because it's going to give us a lot of points later, but it's also going to make it a little bit awkward for them. If they have reactive plays in hand, like locks and other stuff like that, then they might be wasting something here because we have an empty board. Rune Mage obviously confirms, you know, suspicions, right? Looks pretty Renfrey at that point. I think they should have taken the Sire on like a Knickers or something like that for points for themselves, but it's whatever. Because there should be some more create and play stuff within their deck, maybe Lydia, for example. I feel like taking that Assimilate engine now is probably our best bet. We also have Diplo in hand, and we have Assimilate procs with the Ramon, right? So the one we could top deck, the create and play off the Council, and then we have the Stefan as well, right? Tons of stuff like that. Kind of a bad pull. I don't have a way to complete a poison. I don't really have other ways to give spying. So this pretty much caps out at 5, the 4 with the armor. And then obviously I don't want to give them any boost because I don't have any more like removal or punish. Technically we could have taken the 8, but it's still a bigger target for them to deal with. So I opted just to kind of go for this right here and look at that 14-point sunset. Like I feel pretty good about the, you know, pull off there. And there's the Lydia, obviously taking away value from the Assimilate because we took it. Them using the second leader charge is kind of nice. Now we can just play cards and not have to worry about it. But I don't really have anything else that acts as an engine here, right? Luckily we have enough soldiers going around that we can just sort of split up these battle preps. So we have a couple more coming. 2 more Nausicas, and then the third one off of the Council there, so. So they have 2 more big swings, but that's pretty much all of it. They have the Renfrey play, and then they have the Triss play. Now, that's probably going to be about 40 to 45 points for the 2 of those plays. So we're not done yet, but I would imagine that a lot of the other stuff that they're playing is a little bit slower, right? The idea here was to reduce the odds of them bonding those up and then getting the 5-point Torturer spawned. Nice 20-point Vilgefortz. I feel like what I could have done here is maybe take out the Mage Torturer on the left side and then ping the... the 7 with the armor on the right side. But it's not like a really big rush. The problem is if they take Triss here, then you lose that opportunity, and they do. So, but it's really not that bad because Stefan here plays at 6. So if they don't proc assimilate, you're killing the 4, but then you're also getting the 2. We have to play Council first, obviously, because it has the order. And that just goes back in hand because it loses 4 boost. And it's nice that they gave us actually the Illusionist play with the Vilgefortz, because now when we play the Mushy Truffle, it's going to bond it up. And then we're going to be able to get like a full power spawn. I believe it's just be like a tortoise that we spawn, I guess. Unfortunately, we give them a free assimilate proc, though. Yeah, big point swing here. We got 6 points on War Council, 6 points on Mushy Truffle, and then they just realized they couldn't do it with Renfrey. So, moving on to the second one here, we got Northern Realms Inspired Zeal. Again, going into this, I don't know if it's like mages or siege or commandos. Like, there's so many different things that it could be, especially with that stratagem. I'm thinking mages at this point, especially when defender goes on range row. You know, usually it's like Letitia or something like that, so. It's one of those things where if you don't check it as soon as they play it, if it's Letitia, then you could just lose the game because of that. So I'm thinking Joust takes it down to 5. We take it. It's very expensive, but it might just be worth it, because if it's mages, we play into mages as though almost round 1 is round 3, because if we can reduce their build up early, then we can reduce their payoff later on. So and then right away, totally flips here. Now we know it's commandos. And they just opt to go for the spawn here. Couple different ways to look at it, right? I could just kill off that commando and just make it awkward for them. Maybe then they have to look for another copy, and then we just kill that copy. And give them less targets or no targets to start making additional prints of. So the idea here is Cavalry, and then we can basically top deck Stefan to get the tactic procs for the Helga, right? But I opt to use this now and just reduce this from being a thing. I care more about the commandos than I do the full tests. Looking at it, you could probably just take out the full test there, just because we know they have another copy or 2 in deck, right, at this point. So it actually didn't really solve the problem. Kind of looking at my options for what we were to draw if we get the Sunset pull and if we get the Ardal pull, right? So I'm just gonna do what I was supposed to do, really. Like, it's a soldier, you can boost that up, keep it safe. And then it's gotta be... I was thinking about maybe the Kedweni, but this is probably just the best play, right? Yeah. So that could have actually saved quite a lot of points that we just gave them by taking our time with it, but for what it's worth, we get it done regardless. I'm not feeling too bad about it. We're still winning on even here. I think we committed a fair amount, but it's not horrible. It's really not that bad. Now, I'm trying to address basically if I want to keep playing in or if I want to just get 2-card advantage. I play in because I feel like with them bringing back all the commandos in later rounds, it doesn't even matter almost if they have 2 cards. You know? So we can bleed that out of them and then just take away that threat for later. There. Again, still playing in here feels fine to me. Mushy Truffle means more carryover for later. We have the order on the back row that we could use too, so there's that. But also Yen's just good top decking into, you know, the Roach is going to be the 4 points plus the 2 plus the 4, so a quick 10-point tempo. And also 2 bodies for Mushy Truffle, so works out quite well. If we bleed into round 2 with Truffle, then we have the Truffle carryover for round 3, which is the big thing here. So this poses a bit of a problem because the Yen there. We don't have a tactic in hand to play with the Magni. But we also need a soldier to play with the Ramon. So I know that I'm going to be pulling soldiers afterwards into the next round, right? Nausicaa is going to be the next thing here. So we have a really strong finish if we don't win the game here, but we get out the commandos again, and then we save Ramon for later rounds. So that's kind of the idea here. We can go and we can just take Truffle, start getting bodies on the playing field, and it should just be fine. Don't love the commando spawn, but it is what it is. Again, passing here means we get double last say and the carryover, but it's also one of those things where I do have 12 points just sitting there, right? With the 2 orders from the locations, like that's really good. And obviously we have to use Council before the round's over because we can't take it over to round 3. So trying to decide if it's worth hitting the armor off to stop the engine or if it's just worth getting rid of it altogether. I think the solid removal is probably the best bet here. And just in case, right, give yourself a little bit of a buffer. So we see Pavetta. We're kind of one step closer, right? We got to get the commandos out here in round 2. We also have to get out the Renew because I'm thinking it's probably triple given the amount of effort they're putting towards making all the commandos, right? So we see the Renew come out, and that's a big thing. I wasn't thinking about playing in anymore here, but I feel like it's kind of one of those things where we're going to because of it. We can't put the Doom back in their hand, right? You see? So it's got to be the Pavetta that we put back in the hand. So technically we lose 2 points here, but knowing that they don't have triple available and knowing that they're going to have to spend the Commandos to get out of this round, they knew as well, and they forfeit here. So we're good to go with that. And moving on to the last game here, we have Enslave 6. So in a matchup like this, it's tough because they can use Tourney Joust to kill off our Hefty Helga. And, you know, obviously easy removal for our engines as well. The fact that we're going first means they're going to be able to respond to whatever we're doing. However, it does give me an advantage here because now we can at least boost up the Helga, making it more difficult for them to remove. And then in later rounds, theirs will just be base power, and they won't get as much value from theirs. So I'm starting to think that there is a little bit of an advantage in going first with a deck like this, but it's hard to say. Seeing Blightmaker break a shield here feels pretty good. And just, I want to get some tempo out here. I want to get the deck sorted out. We got to make sure that we can get out of the round, but at the same time, I kind of want to win the round, you know? Having given the Helga a shield, or Veil rather, it's tough because we can't give Helga a shield anymore with the Joust. So we either trade down on a battle prep or use a Joust onto the Helga. Maybe consideration actually to play the Magni beside the Helga here, because if they had Assassination it would have been 5 points instead of 6, but I was also just trying to play around Treason, but at the same time, what is 2 damage, right? Combat Engineer is probably the best bet here. I don't really have a target to copy with the Duchess. And the Torturer doesn't really do a whole lot for me here because we did most of the Assimilate stuff. So I'm just looking at, okay, what's the most points now? It's got to be the Combat Engineer, right? And then just sort of playing around that Assassination now just in case. That's nice. We get the double proc there when we roll it off a Diplo. 2 charges, 1 turn, 1 Helga. Seeing that's kind of gross though.
My boots got sand up here.
Coated weapons is a tough one. And one of the reasons why I didn't take coated weapons is because the game has so many good bronze cards right now that you normally don't want to finish a kill with it, right? And if there's nothing left to hit but gold cards, then you risk stuffing their deck with a gold card. So there's that. I'm deciding to go ahead here and take some carryover, try and get Mushy Truffle online, try and get War Council online, both of which are 12 points. So if I do go in to try and bleed some golds out of the opponent, we have the option to do so. Seeing that their Devotion's interesting. I thought about Devotion with the Amnesties, but it was sort of limiting what we could do. It's a question of whether we pass or play. The problem is, if I pass here, then they try pass round 2 and ruin all the carryover that we tried to establish. So now I'm committed. even though the illusionist there playing a 1-point Blightmaker isn't very good, you know. Now I got to make a difficult decision. Do we let Sunset draw? Or do we just pass? Again, I think it's just a play here. Because whatever we play, whether it's Assassination to kill the Fire Scorpion or the Illusionist there just to play a bronze card, the Sunset's coming out. And with that play, the opponent's going to say, okay, that's enough, I'm out, right? Because look, 29 to 12 is a pretty big contrast if they're not going to take a leader, and they have no reason to take a leader because they don't have an engine target, and also they're only getting a 4-point seize, right? They have Enslave 6 at this point, so... So we get the pass there at what cost? I mean, at least we top deck all of our good stuff, and we're going to be getting it. Good. So we have the Ramon with the Illusionist, so we get the bonded off the two of them there. I want to have a Nausicaa, but at the same point, like, we're not passing here. We got to just play it a little bit in and see if we can start getting us some good cards, but also not lose our card altogether. I'm hesitant to play the Mushy Truffle here because it gives so much value to another Amnesty, right? They have the one that they played, but if they take a second one and then it's 3 power, boost it up to 5, like, it's kind of bad for me here. So maybe taking a turn to think on it's nice. Also, don't really want to take a battle prep on a 1 there because it's a machine, not a soldier, so we're losing 2 points. I've been seeing a lot of people run Defender. I think it's a little bit slow in a deck that already feels pretty slow. And the only things that we're really looking to protect in this deck are going to be those 3 engines, right? And I think Mushy Truffle, the battle preps, and our stratagem should just be enough for those. Everything else is deploy. When I see the Defender go like that, I'm starting to think Damien. And obviously they high roll the bribery, right? I think this time we have to go and take that. Back-to-back Stephans. Obviously getting the full 4 spawns really painful. But the absolute thirst, them seizing that so we don't get the bonded play. Us still having leader intact is kind of worth the card. However, I still think it's important that we go and we play one more here. Because, look, I know their hand's going to be all gold cards. I might as well play something like the Assassination and then take this council because, you know, we have the ability to do so. And they're not going to pass on us because if they pass, they lose. We still have 2 cards. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think them getting Helga down here is just them undervaluing it because they know that Joust is a thing. But it's still nice to see a gold card played on a board when we intend to pass anyways. So going into round 3, top deck into the defender helps. Seeing Nausicaa there is going to help us out quite a bit too. So it's not the Magni play. We don't have the Dwim carryover because in this event we played both of the locations in round 1. Normally you wouldn't do that. That looks pretty good. Lightmaker empty board's good. We took away some of the value in this matchup from those. I'm thinking at this point, because I'm a card down, I should greed it. So Illusionist here into the Fire Scorpion, then Defender coming down next turn is probably just better for me getting that extra charge. And I kind of want that, you know? But this time around, I kind of want to keep it safe. So... yeah, you know? And Treason for 4 points, 7 provisions. Okay, I mean, technically 5 points, then... yeah, it's like 8, 9 points, whatever, because the tactics that we're going to play and all that stuff. But so far it's looking pretty good here. And this is what I'm talking about. Stefan bringing out the 6 damage on demand, taking out the Damien. I just think Damien's too greedy. Everybody's got to purify and then some control options. So it makes them undervalue their leader and they get punished for it, right? What do you put back in hand? I mean, we just replay the card, don't we? It's right back where it was. It didn't really do much, but give them a card. Then we'll go get a card, and we should just be good, right? Can't say I love that, but I was hoping to draw something a little bit better, but I'll take the Illusionist. Put the 2 back in the hand. I was thinking maybe taking Magni right now, but Mage Assassin just feels safer because they could have a tactic in hand, right? Yeah, that's just a bit better. We get the forfeit there. See you guys soon with another one.